Well, good afternoon and welcome to our second podcast. We're going to be talking a little bit about some key issues really that I've been thinking about and wanted to talk about today in particular. Um, Really around DDP and DAP. I did a webinar just recently with the ICC and it brought out lots and lots of people viewing it and still many challenges within what is DDP, what is DAP. So I just thought today's podcast would just do a quick kind of overall thing on the different Incoterms and the ones that we should be thinking about and looking at. It's very important. If you're a sales guy, you've got to get this right. If you're in, anything from a manufacturer or you're looking at expanding your exports and you're caught in a lot of these Incoterms that are badly inherited, this is the time to change them. We've got so much uncertainty now with global supply chain exposure and lots of other things, and you leave yourself under huge exposure when you're choosing Incoterms. And yeah, I hear it all the time. Look, I'm a sales guy. I'm no different to anybody else out there. I want the best deal. I want to get a deal. I want to get more business. But at the end of the day, you've got to be realistic with it. You've got to be sensible. And, when I see people all the time, when I'm doing, in all my 30 years of experience from transport to customs to Incoterms, all this, not just here, but internationally, I come across the same issues. Yeah, but we use it because customer wants it. No, it doesn't work. You've got to start to understand what your obligations are and your risk, because it will come back to haunt you, trust me. And it can be very expensive, very expensive. So again, it's just understanding that next stage. And DDP's one Incoterm decision can wipe out your entire profit. I've seen it all the time. I've been getting involved in a couple of companies just recently. And I noticed, again, what Incoterm are using. Well, it's XWorks, it's DAP, it's DDP. Today, we're just going to concentrate on two terms. I'm not going to talk about other ones because we'll cover them in other podcasts, which I think will make it more understanding and it'll become a lot better if you're a salesperson or you're looking at to understand Incoterms. But trust me, using the wrong Incoterm can really, really wipe out any profits you made. You imagine you've just got a big deal. You've been working on a contract for months and months. Nobody's really understood the Incoterm because it's the last thing you probably think about because ultimately you want to sell your products. You get a good price on it. Customer wants you to arrange the transport. You've built that in. You're not quite sure. It's a bit unstable at the moment, as we've noticed with oil and everything else around there. But what's the key thing that can really, really destroy you? It's two things. And the main one ultimately is DDP. Because duty delivered paid, it sounds very simple. It's much easier for the buyer because they take a lot of pressure. And they'll come out with all sorts of claptrap. They'll come out with all sorts. Well, as a company, we don't allow DAP or FCA. It's got to be DDP. Absolute rubbish. Incoterm, as Tom will always say, and Tom will always say this as a head of Irish Customs for many years on a large case division, nobody can force an Incoterm on anybody. You have to agree it together. So don't get into all this where because they'll try it on, they'll push you and get the best deal they can, and you'll then have to go through all the rigmarole of why you want to start setting up in countries around the world and everything else. Personally, I don't get it, but I understand in some way why companies do it because it's a lack of understanding and a lack of argument. This is a great podcast to get you to really start to think, you know what? I agree. Rich is right here. We have to start being more aggressive with our terms because our exposure now is not just on moving goods. It's the whole thing around there. There's whole things with geopolitics. There's all sorts with oil. What happens if you're taking all that risk and all of a sudden everything goes through the roof? You've agreed to pay for it all. So suddenly you're 30% wiped out, could be 50, could be 60, could be 100%. You could be shipping goods and not making a penny of it. What's the point in that? So again, it's understanding. Put on a choice between DDP and DAP. DAP is a term I really like as an exporter because you have control of it. You have control over the fare, you have control over the movement, you have control over the customs, you have the full control. Yes, there's a drawback because you have to pay for the transport, but at the end of the day, you have control of it. Why would you not want to do that? I see so many people using XWorks and other things, but you have no control of it. Whereas DAP, it's clean, it's easy, and it's a very clear understanding of what delivered at place. I'm delivered at your place. The place you deliver to, they'll unload it, they'll pay the duties. So let's talk about DDP. Again, accepting a buyer's preferred Incoterm without conducting an independent risk, you just assume and you agree it. Why? Why do you agree it? What reasons is there to agree it? There's no reason at all. Look at it and see if it works for you. Agree to quickly, very anxious or very enthusiastic salespeople. Because remember, the one thing a lot of people forget about this is most people don't get involved with this stage. This is an inquiry stage, and this is normally your sales team or your could be your customer service team. What experience do they have in negotiation? They may be able to negotiate, sell their product, but you have a compliance department that can really steer them to make them understand that when that inquiry comes in, they're making clear decisions straight away. Because not understanding the risk, failing to quantify duties, VAT exposure, compliance obligations, customs liability before you agree to DDP. Because remember, delivered duty pay means three things. It means you will arrange the transport, you will take the risk, you will do a customs entry for the goods to leave the UK. Sounds great. But now you arrive at the other border and now you're the importer record as well. Not only are you the importer record, now you have to do a customs. Now you've got to follow the procedures and the processes and the documentation and the requirements in the country you're delivering to. Unless you're incredibly knowledgeable and you know that area inside and out, how do you know what other liabilities are there? Then there's a VAT or a tax. That tax or that VAT under DDP terms is yours. But what happens if you get 18, 23% VAT charge in Germany or in France? Yes, there's regimes and other things, but let's just talk purely basically on the terms. You've still suddenly got to pay 18%. Can you claim that back? Not really, because you're not registered there. So it means setting up companies, setting up for you, ER numbers with, or your numbers with freight forwarders, etc. to use regime. But it gets all so complex. Let's just keep things simple. Because you will pay for it eventually. And when you have an audit, customs will be all over it. Or if there's an audit in another country and you're the importer record, there could be all sorts of consequences in that it comes back to you. So again, how do you know? You have no control over. So again, I see it all the time. Exports is that early stage capture it on your inquiry checklist. Be very clear what Incoterm have we agreed to, tick it, sign it. When that purchase order comes through, check it, tick it, make sure it all matches. There are a lot of companies out there who will understand the system and they'll play the system. Again, DAP, very simple because you handle the whole shipment, all the process, all the way through. You have clear, very much from a compliance, you have everything. Now, if anything happens when it arrives on the other side, unless it's obviously something damaged and you've damaged it, because remember, you take the obligation within the risk of the goods all the way to the premises. So if anything happens on the way to the premises, you are legally and you're responsible for that risk. So it's your insurance claim. But in most cases, that doesn't happen. There's some very good freight forwarders out there. Yes, they make mistakes, but unintentionally make mistakes. Things just happen. They hold their hand up, and that's why we have insurances and why we claim. But in most cases, a freight forwarder do everything you ask him to do. And it's very simple for him. It's DAP, he knows, he delivers it, he'll contact the importer or his agent will contact the importer in the country it's going into. They'll ask for details. They'll ask if who's going to be paying the VAT and the duty or the taxes and the duty, again, depending on which jurisdiction they're in. And that importer will agree to pay it. The freight forwarder will deliver the goods and he'll also ask for the cost of the duties and the taxes because that has to be paid before they can deliver. So they'll pay that, goods get delivered. You have full control over that journey. So it's that perfect journey for the customer, delivered at place, very simplified and very simple to use. The reality of a DDP, I go on and on. I apologise because I know people must get absolutely bored to tears with me, but it's reality. You handle everything. You're the last mile. You're the whole entity. You pay any duties and taxes. You have all the obligations, any controls, any certificates, any conformity reports. It's all on you. You have to take all that responsibility. What happens if it gets stuck and it gets stuck at border for weeks and weeks? I've had customers who've had stuff stuck in a border for months and months and got a bill for it because it's been stored. Got bills for something like between £300 and £13,000 last year or 2 years ago. I had a customer had a £46,000 bill. So do not underestimate what your responsibilities are. Just be very careful. Again, the VAT, do you really want to be VAT registered in other countries? I get it because obviously you want business, but start thinking about this. The smart people in the supply chain are the people and look at their exposure and start to we call it, start to kind of make it much more stronger. Make your supply chain a lot stronger where you have more control. And then if there's massive changes, You have the control to change things. If you don't have the control now, how are you going to control things when we're seeing all this geopolitics and everything happening? So maximum says DDP transfers the entire import burden to you as a seller. So when they talk seller, they mean exports. Again, from a full compliance, you could be liable for compliance issues in another country that you have no understanding of what's required in there. Yes, you can ask for support like people like me, but normally I'm the last leg of that. I've been to I would say in the last year, I've probably visited, I don't know, 20 companies who are using different DDP, DAP, Xworks, and probably, you know, I would say just by doing the audits, which we do, our diagnostics audits, I think we're around about 100 to 200,000 pounds saving for them businesses. Just little things that they're wasting money on. And this is what I mean, your supply chain exposure is a lot deeper than you think it is. So again, get the experts in who can save you a lot of money and get you on the right path. We're salespeople, so we're not here to stop you selling, not here to stop you developing. We're here to stop that gap to make sure that when you're selling, you're making that maximum profit and you understand fully what is your requirements. When it goes wrong, no VAT registration means that you end up with a burden of a big cost. On customs representation is indirect or customs instead of direct or one transfers liability, incorrectly leaving the exports exposed, but despite them believing actually that they're covered. A lot of companies do that indirect, but again, where they share the responsibility to direct under 3, we're normally using 2, where they're taking your responsibility in your paperwork, etc. But again, just be careful of that. Freight forwarders misunderstand. Many freight forwarders quote DDP-like services without holding the correct. Does the freight forwarder actually understand? He'll do everything the freight forwarder will working closely with you. But unfortunately, a lot of freight forwarders, there's some third parties involved who don't have the knowledge as the actual party who's doing it. And normally the party who's doing it doesn't know what the party in the middle has agreed to. It was my biggest frustration when we was delivering many trailers into Spain and Portugal. We was getting it from a freight forwarder, but the freight forwarder hasn't got all the details. We were then chasing our backs to try and get that information. Sounded like we didn't know what we was doing, but actually we did. It's just that unfortunately there's always middlemen in this industry. So you must check this. It's very important. Check when you're giving goods that freight forwarder knows exactly what his responsibility is. Got a job going at the moment to the US for a client, and we're asking them questions. Do you need this? Do you need that? What do you need? Do you need the commercial? Do you need more information for us? So we're getting all the information to them that if anything happens when it arrives in the US, we know that we can be responsive to that within hours, not days or 2 days trying to find information, because we're asking them questions already. So hopefully the freight forward will come back to us and let us know. DDP is not a service, it's a liability, and is a liability. I have no understanding why we do DDP, to be honest, but we do it and we have to live with it. But you have to have a clear structure in place. Your supply chain exposure really starts to hit home when you start to look at everything, what's happening at the moment. What are your costs? What are your landing costs? What happens if, as we've seen, I went to the forecourt yesterday and it was 179 and I managed to find some at 165, 160, yeah, 165.9. Can you imagine if you're paying all that cost? You've not only got the freight forwarder's cost, who's obviously been hit with high charges, you may have extra costs when it gets on the other side because they might be hit with lots of fuel charges and everything else, and you're taking the whole risk. You're taking all that cost. So again, yes, you could do that in DAP, but it's a bit more negotiable because you haven't got the taxes and the VAT in that country where you're going into. So again, it's really important to understand. It's all about protection. Protect your profit. We always say run your diagnostics, understand your exposure, fix issues before shipment. If you do them 3 key things, trust me, you'll make more profit. And that's what export's all about. Lots of people lose money on exports or don't make the money as they thought they were going to make because they misunderstand that journey from A all the way to the final, to the customer. And that final leg is you want that perfect service to the customer, but you don't want it with all the exposure because that exposure can end up costing you a lot of money. Again, we do diagnostics and other things if you want to check it out, but hopefully you've enjoyed that. It's a quick fire run on our podcast. We're going to do a few more of these because we've been asked about this, about going more into detail, and we'll do a few more. If anybody's got any notes and wants to look at Xworks and other things, drop us in our notes, subscribe to us, drop in the chat, and we'll certainly have a look at that. We've got lots and lots of exciting podcasts coming up every week, every Monday. So hopefully you'll enjoy this, and we'll look forward to seeing you hopefully next Monday for our next one, which hopefully you'll enjoy. Thanks very much.